In Taiwan Talk this week.
Before I come to Taiwan, I used to travel. And I travel almost 20 countries. I don't know what happened. Suddenly, I stopped in Taiwan. Maybe I felt home.
Iran is roughly 6,660 kilometers from Taiwan. Now, that's not far if you consider that the U.S. West Coast is more than 10,000 kilometers away. In spite of the distance, the National Immigration Agency says there are just over 200 Iranian passport holders here, that figure representing 0.02% of the foreign community who have chosen to make Taiwan their home. One of those is Fan Di Shen, known to friends as Dave. He's the owner of Arsham in Neihu and Taichung. He shares his story about how he made Taiwan his home and set up a thriving business in this week's edition of Taiwan Talk.
Taiwan, there is no Iranian community here. Yeah. Okay. There are some students, some great people. They're studying in some colleges. But I don't know them closely. But honestly, there is no Iranian community in Taiwan. I don't know why. Maybe the population is not high enough. And maybe the other reason is because of the government, policies. Maybe not easy for Iranian to come to Taiwan.
And yet you think of this place as home, because even if there isn't very many persons like you, yes?
About being a home, first is about connection, then the communication. My father always taught me, says, wherever you travel, first remember to greet them in their own language. If you learn the basic greetings in their own language, you try to communicate with them, they welcome you more. So then, wherever I travel, for example, I learned the basic way in a very funny way. So I found out it's true. For example, in here, sometimes I go to elderly grocery store, those elderly people there. They look at me as a foreigner. They're a little nervous. Suddenly I say, hey, Tauge, Li Ho. Suddenly they confused. They confused. They say, oh, Atoka Kun Tagiya. So, then, suddenly, break the ice. And there is no distance between us. Then I believe, yeah, my father was right. So about the feeling you mentioned about that, I believe everything is all about the connection and the communication way. Some of my foreign friends, they say here, why everywhere you go they treat you very good? It's not because I'm a foreigner. It's because how do I communicate with people? I like to create a beautiful atmosphere with the people who we are, communicating with them. That's what I believe is the most important thing, which makes here, I feel like home.
Okay, so you came here, there's not much of an Iranian community. You've decided to set up a very niche business, doing a very niche thing. What was that like starting out for you?
Actually, every business, it has its own difficulty. And experience proves that there is nothing come without suffering and difficulties. In the beginning, we didn't have any, we didn't have a lot of money. And we started with the basic level. We made a lot of mistakes. We bought a lot of advertising, which at that time we thought it was necessary, but after that we thought, oh, it was wasting. But now I go back, I feel, oh, it's wonderful. Because they all became a resume. Even, at that time it wasn't useful, but after all, it became a resume. And you know, if you don't fall, you cannot grow. For business, I always tell my friends, actually, every friends of mine, in the beginning, I told them I want to do the carpet business. They all stopped me. They said, don't do. Taiwan, nobody is interested in carpet. You will fall, you will this, you will that. I didn't listen to them. I said, that's my dream. Even, they didn't know how was I doing or what was I wanted to do. But I never give up. Even, with my wife, which she was my girlfriend at that time, even, we reached to a level we didn't have money to eat lunch. One day, we had one lunchbox because we had a lot of carpet, but we didn't have cash. Once she told me, she said, Daddy, you want to have steak? I said, do we have money to have steak? She said, okay, I take you to go to eat. I said, you didn't borrow money from your parents? She said, no. We went to Costco, those trying piece of steak. We waited in line 4 times to have a steak. But, I believe if we didn't have that moment, we couldn't reach here. We didn't give up. We kept going. For example, sometimes she said, okay, let's close it. I said, no. Sometimes I said, okay, let's close it. She said, no. But we suffered and we grow together. Now we are happy together, and we can feel if we didn't have that time, we couldn't reach this level. And I'm so humble, appreciate my Taiwanese friends who they watch over us and help us to create this environment we can share with people.
This is a beautiful salon. It's got the most beautiful carpets I've ever been privileged to touch. Tell me about one of these carpets. I'm looking at one that's primarily burgundy and gold. Tell me about what goes into one of these works of art.
It's very beautiful. You mentioned that this is a piece of art. Every carpet, there is a story behind. Why do the designer and the master weaver, they want to create this piece of art? It's a cooperation between both of them. And mostly goes back to their own imagination. Everybody has different kinds of imagination of the paradise. Most of the master weaver, because they are elderly, they have some imagination for themselves. For example, they said, oh, I wish, I had this in for eternity, not only to this life, So they create that kind of pattern. And some of them, it goes back to Persian architecture and Persian painting for the ceiling of the mosque or churches. So every pattern is unique and has its own, as I said, the story and dedication of the weaving process. It's not just weaving, because these masters, they put their heart there. And because it takes a long time, and usually I tell my friends or I tell my clients, I said, it's a kind of destiny, because the master spent a long time on this rock, and this is a natural pure silk, which we call that it's still alive. So there is always a connection. It's that each piece, it will find its own place. Honestly, it happened very, very clearly to me. which, I had a lot of piece of rocks, you see that. Every rock, they get some attention, some clients, they walk inside, they look at this, they look at this. For example, some rock, before I had, nobody look at that. Suddenly one client just walked inside, directly went to that rock. And for the hand-woven rock, they don't have a certain size. We got different sizes. And it was very interesting. That rock was too small, for example, 74 cm to 120 cm. That wasn't the routine size. Suddenly the lady, she looked at that carpet, and I took it to her home, was exactly the same. It means that master was weaving that rug for that place, So that's why I call that this is kind of
Yuan Fan.
Yuan Fan. It's a kind of destiny, which they will find their own spaces to go, but it takes time. Sometimes it's quick, sometimes it takes time. But in the end, they will find their own right places.
You were listening to Fan Di Shen, or Dave of Arsham. I'm Hope Go. You can catch this episode on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you for tuning in.